In the tradition of the Navajo Native American tribe, there is the belief in a shape-shifting monster known as the Skinwalker. The actual term Skinwalker comes from the Navajo description, which means, with it he goes on all fours. The Skinwalker are usually male witches from the Navajo tribe who are described as wearing the skins of animals to take on their traits and transform into, like the bear, the desert fox, an owl, and a crow. The preferred form that this monster likes to disguise itself as is that of a coyote or as an angry growling wolf that goes out to hunt down its prey. In Europe, the Skinwalker would have been known as a werewolf. The Skinwalker roams about at great speed and is tracked by the strange noises they make when they're close by. People also detect the presence of the Skinwalker nearby when the dogs bark loudly. As a result of all this, the Navajo people investigate the strange occurrences and usually come across huge footprints of animals that are bigger than their natural size. Sometimes they follow the trail and it leads them a long distance all the way to the home of the Skinwalker. The Skinwalkers meet at night in what is known as the Witches' Sabbath to plan attacks against their victims, to initiate new members, to kill victims at a distance, and to have intercourse with dead women and engage in acts of cannibalism, both of which are characteristic of the Middle Eastern ghoul and of the witches in medieval Europe, whom both are claimed to have powers of shape-shifting. To become a Skinwalker, you have to be initiated by your parent, a grandparent, or a spouse, and from there learn what is known as the witchery way, and that would require you to murder a near relative, usually a sibling, in order to be initiated into becoming a Skinwalker. When they want to engage in murder, sometimes they use what is known as corpse poison. Corpse poison is composed of the flesh of dead corpses, preferably that of children and or twin children. The bones at the back of the head and skin gores are the prized ingredients. When this corpse poison is grounded into powder, it looks like pollen. This substance is usually then blown into someone's face through furrowed sticks, and the victim develops what is known as ghost sickness. And the symptoms of the sickness consist of paranoia, confusion, nightmares, dizziness, fainting, and even a swollen or a blackened tongue. The victim then would gradually waste away. The Skinwalkers even operate like a criminal syndicate and exploit all this. One will give the victim the ghost sickness and the other will act like a healer for a fee. And as a result, the two Skinwalkers will split the profits. They will even rob the graves of the dead for profit as well. In my opinion, the ghost sickness sounds like it's just the power of suggestion, or the nocebo effect, an opposite of the placebo effect. However, another explanation is that the Skinwalkers had some access to drugs, which I will discuss shortly. The Skinwalker is believed to be able to physically turn his form into that of different animals. There is a good documented account of this, where in 1944, a 15-year-old schoolboy was by himself at midnight herding sheep and saw a big dog standing in the middle amongst them, just to shoot him with a shotgun. His sister ran out and took notice as he ended up eventually hitting this dog in its upper arm as it was running away. Later on, in the next morning, he came across a man with some bandages on his upper arm that corresponds in the same spot where the dog was shot at last night. In reality, the Skinwalker is a shaman of the dark arts that has been known in many cultures to use different rituals to induce an altered state of consciousness, to vividly dream or have an out-of-body experience, and shapeshift into different forms. So the experience of shapeshifting is a mental one, but can be experienced like it's a physical one. When they're wearing the skin of the animal over their body, as they're mentally elsewhere, and acting out the behavior of the animal with such skill, onlookers can temporarily misperceive them as actual animals, which can explain why people believe them to be physical shapeshifters to begin with. There are a few cases on record to back up these claims, one being of a man who was away from home one day and saw what he first thought was a real coyote until he realized that it was a woman with a coyote hide slipping over her shoulder who turned out to be part of the Skinwalker gang. Another, even better case concerned another individual who was out hunting. He saw what he viewed as a wolf coming, so he hid. When the wolf went by him, he shot the wolf and it went over the hill just a little ways. The hunter went over there, and there was the wolf with the skin off its head, just to reveal that it was the hunter's grandpa. Other scenarios that led to the belief in skinwalkers having the ability to physically morph their bodies is the phenomenon of psychedelic drugs. As was already discussed, the skinwalkers were known to use drugs, some that can be deadly like Datura, which has hallucinogenic qualities to manipulate the mind to see things. Skinwalkers, given their involvement as a criminal syndicate, most likely even have access to another drug known as peyote, which, like Datura, can be used by someone to manipulate others and make them see strange things. That someone can even make others think that he is a shape-shifting skinwalker bent on destruction as well. Many people of the Navajo tribe go to a place known as the Native American Church that uses peyote in its rituals to communicate with the spirit realm, so it's highly likely that the skinwalkers got a hold of that drug for its own rituals and for other manipulative purposes. Another concept that led people to think that skinwalkers are physical shape changers are Western writers and researchers who make the claim that the Navajo tribe see ghosts and spirits as one and the same with skinwalkers. Some other researchers disagree and claim that the skinwalkers are closely connected to spirits and ghosts, but are different entities from them. The spirits in the Navajo tradition are believed to be shadowy, dark figures that can shapeshift into different forms in front of witnesses, and linked with sickness, all attributes of the skinwalkers. These shadowy, dark figures are very well known in more recent times, and have been documented in ancient cultures, and have been viewed as demons, vampires, and the undead. They are known today in modern times as the shadow people, or shadow entities. I once heard on a radio program that was talking about someone's experience with a shadow entity that can easily be confused for a skinwalker. This individual described seeing a shadow person morph into a grizzly bear to terrorize him. Another entity that can easily be viewed as a skinwalker is the trickster of Native American tradition. The trickster is an off-world entity and a shapeshifter, and one of the common forms that it takes on is that of a coyote and wolf, both of which are favorite forms of the skinwalker as well. It is almost as though the trickster lives through the skinwalker in some way. There has even been a few reported sightings of an entity where people would sometimes describe a large wolf that would transform into a gigantic, monstrous spider. And according to Native American legend, the trickster has even been believed to take on the form of a spider as well. Some Navajo also believe that the skinwalker has the ability to steal the skin or body of a person. The Navajo believe that if you lock eyes with a skinwalker, they can absorb themselves into your body. Or, to put it another way, engaging in a form of demonic possession and mind control. We see this type of phenomenon and similar ones recorded all around the world with different entities throughout history, like with the metaphor of Medusa and the Gorgons of classical Greek myth, the magicians who engage with the occult, people who are demonically possessed, and the more modern-day alien abduction phenomenon, where the Greys will lock their black eyes into those of the abductee and mind control them. It does appear as if there is some sinister force out there that takes over the minds of individuals and spreads like a virus into the minds of others through the eyes. Is this real, or a product of the human imagination? If it is real, then you probably will have to be in an altered state of consciousness to experience it. An example of that would be when people would remember and relive their alien encounters under hypnosis. Hypnosis is a form of an altered state of consciousness. We have now seen the evolution through time of what the skinwalker is and what its abilities are. From the Skinwalker starting off as being a witch who wears the skins of animals to change their shape in the mental astral plane, to decades later people seeing them as the same with demons and other entities that individuals have witnessed, which further solidified the belief in Skinwalkers being physical shapeshifters, even giving them additional powers of mind control and demonic possession. To now people in more modern times seeing almost any glowing-eyed shapeshifter in deserted areas as being a Skinwalker. When individuals, couples, and a group of people see shapeshifters that are labeled Skinwalkers on deserted roads or in forests, etc., how are we to explain these experiences? Highway hypnosis is one explanation, but for people who drive for a very long time. Other explanations for sightings of potential Skinwalkers could be all of what I listed earlier in this video that could be used to help explain these sightings, along with all the explanations that I brought up in my earlier video on the Alp of Germanic folklore. Could be used also to help explain experiences that people have with these bloodthirsty, flesh-eating shapeshifters, known as Skinwalkers, who could be lurking anywhere at any time in the dark, even in the darkness of the human mind and imagination, to pounce, drive mad, and tear apart at their next victim. Beware the Skinwalker.